Live from WROC, this is News 8 at 11.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, a major problem for local troops returning home from war.
A growing number are fighting their biggest battle yet, PTSD. By the end of 2014, 1 million Americans will have come home from Iraq and Afghanistan. Local experts tell me 20% have post-traumatic stress disorder. Many won't be diagnosed for years. Most will never see the inside of a VA facility. A local soldier's story makes it clear why we have to find answers for our veterans and their families. The Berkana Hill farm outside Prattsburg is a long way from where Dan Hoagland has been.
I served in Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, and 2 tours in Iraq.
Staff Sergeant Hoagland retired after 6 tours and more than 11 years in the Army. He and his wife Angie moved their family here almost as a last resort.
It makes life real simple. It's easy, you know, we've got our chores.
It's nice to have the quiet, you know. Nobody really bugs me up here. Yeah.
Like hundreds of thousands of others who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, Dan brought home the curse of post-traumatic stress disorder. How often do you think about suicide?
It's almost daily. For about the last 12 years, almost daily.
The first time Angie noticed something different at her husband was when he got off the plane with the rest of the 410th of the 89th Military Police Brigade in Fort Hood, Texas. He was home after his second tour in Iraq.
And he came home and he was not happy.
From the minute he got home?
Yeah, it was I think 5 hours after he came home, we got in like a huge fight.
Like most service members, Dan wouldn't admit something was wrong.
I was a soldier, and I didn't want anybody to know I had PTSD. I was well respected, I was revered, and the last thing I wanted was that tag.
PTSD is a growing concern for the Veterans Administration. In 2011, the VA treated almost 500,000 veterans. Nearly 100,000 served in Iraq or Afghanistan. That's a 35% increase since 2008. What is PTSD?
Most people don't have the ability to say, yes, I saw a mortar round blow up 5 car lengths away. I have. So now when a car backfires, that same response, that same initial surge that kept me alive years ago causes problems for me now.
There's like weight gain, there's weird sexual behavior, there's financial stuff, there's alcoholism, there's drug abuse, there's a laundry list of just weird stuff that happens.
The years that followed were a living hell. Dan would leave on another tour and come home to a wife fearful of his unpredictable and destructive behavior. He spent all their money and tried suicide by cop near Fort Drum outside Watertown. A man who had proven time and again he would go at a moment's notice to serve our country couldn't stop destroying himself and his family.
I lost my kids, I lost my house, I lost pictures, baby blankets, everything that I had ever accumulated up to the point that we met is all gone.
Even more frustrating for Angie, she pleaded for answers from Dan's doctors and superiors, but got few.
We didn't have any idea.
Dan's most recent serious event with his PTSD happened on the 10th anniversary of the September 11th terror attacks, when he says the emotions of that day triggered what he describes as an empty rage.
So I drank excessively.
He passed out in the driveway with a sword in his hand.
And when I open my eyes, I look up and there was a person in a black uniform pointing a pistol at me. Instinctually, it wasn't a cop that was coming to pick me up to take me to the hospital. It was, I had slipped back into being downrange.
It ended peacefully, but Dan was arrested and is facing charges. He's also quit drinking. This soldier, who would never give up the fight for his country, isn't ready to give up the fight for his life. After working his way through the VA system and trying 9 different therapies, Dan is at the end of his rope.
I want you to just follow me and do what I do and say what I say, okay?
In a desperate effort to find a way to control his PTSD, he's turned to a Rochester Vietnam veteran and a strange, even silly-looking therapy the VA doesn't widely recognize.
And I forgive myself
For my part in this.
for my part in this.
Dan is now part of a research project to prove to the VA it works. Time will only tell if it works for him. This unconventional therapy is called emotional freedom technique. Some call it the tapping solution. Does it work? Well, on Monday, we follow up with Sergeant Hoagland 6 weeks later to find out if it's helping him with his PTSD. Now, to learn more about the Veteran Stress Project and EFT, please go to our website, rochesterhomepage.net. We also have information on many local resources for veterans. Plus, Sergeant Hoagland and his wife explain in their own words what it's like living with this illness. By the way, the toll-free number to the VA's Veterans Crisis Line is 1-800-273-8255.